Welcome back, everyone, to Life Talks. This is Brian, Melissa.
What's up, everyone?
Today is a special day. Oh, wait, I think we need some cranberry juice. My wife poured it all over my lap last time, so she's going to try again.
I'm going to try pouring it on his lap again. You might want to move the microphone, though, because...
Ooh, that was
Success.
close. One go.
Because this time I'm using my right hand instead of my left hand, right? And I'm also a grown-up, so I know how to pour drinks. Cranberry juice.
Nice. A little shout out and shout out. Oh my gosh.
It's getting easier, though.
All right, so today we actually have a special guest, a good buddy of mine. He's one crazy cat. Love this guy, and we're happy to have him. And we got a bunch of questions for him, so we're just going to start spitballing this thing. Okay. And his name's Eric, and he's coming to us from Nebraska. And I'll just give you a quick Omaha. Quick background is he actually grew up in the Illinois area, and he's moved around a lot. He's a big Chicago Bears fan, so he's not so much into those Packers. Hates the Detroit Red Wings. This guy's bleeding basically Chicago, right? So he's a Blackhawks fan. Also a Sox fan, so look out, Cub fans. Well, I got to say the Sox are having a great year. As far as music, he loves classic rock. This guy is an interesting fella. But one question would be, you were in the military. Could you just tell us a little about your service time, what you did, what was that all about?
All right, so I joined pre 9/11 and quickly saw the transition and all the things that we did. I was deployed to Guam, and literally a friend of mine now who's a devout Catholic. He's on our podcast too. We'll drop one with him. He had a stroke. But we went to Thailand, and they're like, "Hey, go build this schoolhouse in this small village in Thailand." And we lived with the villagers for about 3 months or so as we built this school. And every Friday we'd have a party together, and it was just a great opportunity. When you think military, people think that people shooting each other, but no, we were building schools. In my second deployment, I was deployed to in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. I was forward deployed there in the sandbox. And kind of had some tribulations there, as you might imagine. But God is good, and things are starting to work out now. Things, grace of God, and a lot of help through the VA helped me out with that. And then my next deployment, I deployed after the tsunami hit Indonesia in 2004, and we did a lot of humanitarian relief there. I did construction, so we didn't take ships anywhere. We got deployed. That flew us pretty much everywhere. So one of the jobs we were tasked with after the tsunami hit was to find buildings that were habitable for people, which we didn't find any. But there's some crazy. So those are some good things I did, and some amazing things that I did when I was with the military. So that's pretty much my experience. I learned a trade. They taught me to be a plumber and HVAC guy, and I learned everything else on the cuff. I can frame and do whatever.
Yeah, it's amazing what skills you pick up, in whatever your career is. You end up learning so many more things than you really think, and that's the cool thing about growing up and doing different jobs. I have two questions for you. I always have two questions. I can never just have one. Did you ever make it to Guam, first of all?
Yes.
You did. I lived there a little bit also with my brother-in-law. Well, because I lived with my sister and her family. He's in the Navy, and I got to hang out with my nieces for a while. And yeah, Guam, shout out.
Yeah.
Beautiful
the
place.
Chamorro people are awesome. I loved it there. Mm-hmm. Did you ever get to see that? Did you ever, in the middle of, okay, I don't know if you saw this, so I'm just going to set this up for your listeners. In the middle of Guam, there's this waterfall. And there was a Japanese soldier there who was hiding out after Guam was taken. And he popped out in the 70s and thought the World War II was still going on. He had been hiding out and hiding from people in from Guam, living in the jungle. And he came out and he's like, wait, the war's over? And it's 20 years, it's 1970 something.
Wow.
So, yeah. So he was living around that waterfall. So there's a museum for him and stuff like that there, and a beautiful, beautiful waterfall.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. And you can see where he was living, his little barracks that he made for himself, and it's this itty bitty dirt hole. It's just incredible. Yeah. The fortitude that a human spirit can have. So so you were in the military. Would you give any advice for those who are considering the military path, or are there any tips that you might give someone?
I think the number one tip is this. Join the military because you want to serve your country and you want to help the people. When we're fighting, you're not fighting for the president. You're not fighting for the politicians. When you're deployed and you haven't seen your family for 6 months to a year, you're not doing that for the shot callers in Washington. You're doing it for your country. You're doing it for the people to the left and to the right of you. And if you're going to join for that. Like I said, I joined before 9/11, so I heard a lot of people say, well, I only joined to get a college degree. Now I have to go to war. And it's like, dummy dude, you joined the military. If you didn't factor that into your decision process, you're not thinking this through. You do it for your country, for your brothers and sisters back home, as well as in the military. So I would say go into it doing that, knowing that you're going to sacrifice. I will say this. It is a rough life, but it's a fulfilling life. I know people. I remember my buddy, his firstborn son was just learning to talk when he left, and he had a little recording of his son that said, "I love you, Papa," and he would play it, and it was probably like the most bittersweet thing that. And I'm not a father, but I think any of us would ever hear. He always like brings him close to his son, but at the same time he misses his son. So be prepared for sacrifice, and know that your family is sacrificing along with you, and they're just as much as part of the military as you are. But do it out of love for country and the people in your country.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your service, and yeah, that's just awesome. And yeah, that's just right there. It's true. Thank you to the service families, right? The families of servicemen and women who basically have to wait on our loved ones. So, all right, taking a different spin. Just what are some of your fondest memories of life thus far in your 1,000 years on Earth?
My thoughts, gee whiz. Yep. First of all, you're older than me. Second of all,
I don't know. I don't see the paperwork. So.
You don't see the We're gonna. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll put up right after this. I'll put a screenshot of my birth certificate. You can put a shot of yours, and we'll see. We'll see who's older.
Let's see if I can find it.
It's funny. I'm going to sidetrack on this because we're talking about age. So when I was in the Salesians, Salesians serve the youth. So most of the people who come in are 18 to 20 years old, 18, 25. And I was in my early to late 20s. I think I was 28. And they used to call me Father Abraham and Grandpapa. Oh, Grandpapa, can you come here? I'm like, you freaking jerks. So one of the guys he used to say it the most, his name is Pedro, and he is now he left Salesians, and he's now in with the Diocese of South Carolina. And lo and behold, there's this young punk named Eric who makes fun of him for being old. So I was like, aha, justice in this world. And I really would. I'll say I didn't have the best upbringing. I struggled with family, at least half the family on my mom's side, if not all of them. But when I was 12 years old, I moved in with my dad. And I was like his little shadow. I think that's the best way to describe it. Anything he did, I did. I was there with him. I think one time he worked for the village of Bellwood, which is kind of closer to the city. And he took me to work with him one time when he got called into overtime and they were plowing because he was a mechanic. So someone had to be there to fix stuff when it broke down. But the fondest memory I had growing up when I used to live at a pool. I would literally, the pool would open at 10 and it would close at 5. And I was there for that whole time for the most part. And I'd say 4 out of 5 days a week, my dad would come home. He was a mechanic, physical labor guy. He would come home from work, shower, change, and meet me at the pool at 5 o'clock because it was family swim. And he would swim with me for about an hour. That my dad was 48 years old after working a full-time job as a mechanic, manual labor. And he would come home at 48 years old and swim with me for an hour, 4 nights a week. Wow. That's insane, dude. And that's probably my fondest memory. I think if I had to think about what it means to be a father, I think that's it. I mean, I can't think of a better example of what it means to be a good man, a good father than that. To be exhausted and give. And actually, I'm going to add this too. I have a friend who was a single dad, and he's struggling with these issues. And he said, you know what? I bet you, as I was explaining this one time, and I said, I don't know how he did it. And he says, I bet you that was your dad's most precious time of the week was when he got home. And even though he's exhausted, to go swim with you. And it almost choked me up. It really did. And even now I can feel like how beautiful of a statement that is. And so anyway, that's my fondest memory, I think.
Yeah, that's like the power of love, right? That it will move beyond exhaustion. It will move you beyond struggle and strife. And it's powerful. And you encountered a conversion, the power of God's love in your life that took you from like a dark time to some of the brightest times. Can you tell us a little bit about your conversion?
Sure. Okay. So I will try to expedite it. I can go long. So hooligan growing up, a lot of drugs, a lot of drinking, a lot of immoralities. And I don't know why I say it like that. I think I starred in a movie one time and I said immoralities. Or maybe it's 'cause my family's from Ukraine, so maybe it's that too. All right, so a lot of bad stuff. I joined the military. I wasn't doing once again. I wanted drinking and smoking a lot and things like that. And one night I had a dream, and it was the most vivid dream I ever had. And I didn't have a dream of hell. Didn't have a vision of hell. What I did was I had a vision of Christ's second coming, and all the sinners were immobilized and couldn't move. I got an interesting story about that too. I just found out something recently about that theologically. But I was trying to run away and I couldn't. And I got caught and I couldn't move. And with the rest of the sinners, I found out recently. A friend of mine told me that Padre Pio had described hell as because we have no free will, we can't move in hell. Like we're just stuck there, frozen, and that's what Padre Pio said. And I was like, "You'll never guess what? I had a dream. I had a vision when I had my conversion." And we went on a long tangent about that. So that was tied in. I found, like I said, I had that conversion in '04, and I just found out about that about a year and a half ago.
Wow.
So I woke up with this feeling of dread, knowing that I was going to hell for my choices. I wasn't Catholic at the time, so I wasn't practicing Catholic. I didn't know about confession, so I didn't know that I can go to confession and have that taken away. So I woke up and I was in a panic, and like I can't describe the fear. It's not even fear. It's not even terror. Like it's something worse than terror. It's ineffable. But I don't know what it is. I don't know how to describe it. But I tried watching TV and it wouldn't go away. I tried just ignoring it and it wouldn't go away. I tried laying back in my bed and going to sleep. I couldn't get rid of it. It was just overwhelming. And I wound up praying, and I'm laying in my bed praying, God, take this away from me. And he wouldn't do it. And this is okay. So this happened at, like, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And this is going on for hours. And I just couldn't get rid of it. And I walked right across from my barracks room was the chapel. So I crossed the street and went to the chapel, and it was locked, but I was standing outside this holy water font, the Protestant one where they're like dunk you underwater like they're drowning you, St. John the Baptist style, right? And I was standing outside in front of that, and I'm praying, God, take this from me, take this from me. And this feeling wouldn't go away, and I was on my knees begging God, take this from me, right next to the water font. God, take this from me. Nothing. And finally, I just looked up and I said, God, with my whole heart, God, forgive me for my sins. In an instant, it was gone. Right as the last syllable of that word came out of my mouth, that it was gone. And I walked around the base for about, I don't know, an hour or two trying to figure things out. In that moment, I started drinking. I stopped my immoralities. I stopped smoking. It was all in one shot. Like, boom, I made the decision. Like, I came to the precipice of seeing hell, and I don't want to go back there. And I decided at that moment, I'm cutting all sin out of my life that I can.
Wow. Like, it's so interesting how some people have to, like, just because everyone's journey is so different, right? Some people go through things like over time, they're reading all these documents or they're encountering various people, and it takes years and years and years. And obviously your journey probably, you only shared with us a little bit, but like these instant moments though, almost, sometimes God just gives us those graces like immediately, and sometimes God is slow, and it's just beautiful because he treats us individually depending on where we're at and what we need. And so I love hearing people's story and how diverse they are.
I don't mean to laugh, but I'm going to tell you why. Because you said where they're at and what they need, and I think that's because God can't slowly move my soul. Like, he needs to whack me upside the head with a spiritual 2x4 for me to be like, oh, okay, I got it now. Thank you. That's what I need. I need to be walloped like that to get what's going on.
Yeah, I think we kind of need that every day, really. Like, oh yeah, I told you again, son.
Yeah, right.
Oh my, that's some story there. That's just yeah, just sometimes life, or maybe the Lord will let us hit that lowest spot, and we finally cry out to him like, God, have mercy, or whatever it is, a sincere cry, like the most sincere prayer you can ever have. I know that's how it happened for me. Other people, it's like a long journey. It's an intellectual journey. Like C.S. Lewis, he's like, I didn't feel anything. I just knew intellectually at one point, God must be real. It's just like,
yeah.
And he's a brilliant man. But yeah, it's amazing how it happens. I don't know. Any other thoughts on that, hon?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess, yeah, just praise God for being able to, not being able to, but being willing to reach our hearts, right? To just like reach in and captivate us. And, he could just like say, oh, forget it. It's too much work, right? These people or whatever. But that's the story, of Israel, right? And all
Yeah.
people before and afterwards, that he just struggles with us and he lets us, he never lets us walk away. He's always trying to chase after us unless we push him away, but he's always just pursuing us like that, like the father that he is. So
Can I add
it's
something
beautiful.
to that real quick? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, go.
But I will say this is okay. So this is a true story. For whatever reason, for the longest time, I had this fear that I was going to turn away from God at some point and go back to my old life. And I always used to say this prayer: Lord, please don't let me turn from you. But if I do, please guide me to run and not come walking back to your side. And I prayed that every day. I still pray that. And there was at one point where, even though I was in a very rough patch, and it was recently, by recently, I mean, it was like a decade long. But at one point, finally, I didn't turn my back on God because, I mean, St. Peter's words, right? To whom shall we go, Lord? You have the words of everlasting life. So I knew who God was, but I was like, I mean, what did I say to God when I did it? I was like, Lord, well, I mean, if my life is going to suck serving you, why wouldn't I just go back to hedonism, you know? And I turned away, and it like took an hour. And an hour to that moment, I was back in adoration and asking God for forgiveness. And the next day, I was in confession. And I was like, "That's why I offered up that prayer, and that's why I still offer up that prayer. Let me come running back if I ever decide to turn my back. Let me come running back."
He's faithful to those prayers, and it's
Yeah,
beautiful. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we definitely we get those kind of dark nights or whatever you want to call it, periods
yeah,
where you don't feel the spirit. You're like, gosh, where is this God that I so believed in before, right? And it's almost like those are times where we grow the most, where it really is a leap of faith. It's not like all emotion and feeling. It's like love and marriage sometimes. No, just like, I mean,
yeah. Melissa, I'm
but
sorry. I know it's all on you for him. Like he's the one that's acting wacky.
but just as an example, sometimes faith it's not a feeling. It's a choice of the will or the heart. And but we do get the Lord is great, right? He gives us a lot of times of great feelings of peace and just letting him let us feel his radiant love, and that's amazing. That's what heaven will be like forever. But sometimes those dry patches, and that's awesome, man. That you stuck to it after an hour.
Yeah, it took it.
So,
And no, I came running back. I'll tell you that. Yeah, you got to figure
that's
20
cool.
minutes of that was me driving to the chapel. You know.
Sure. That's funny.
All right, our next question for you: what or who has been inspirational to you?
The easy answer would be people like sports heroes like Gail Sayers or who's another Shaq. I really Shaq is kind of it's sports inspirational for sports wise. People, you might laugh at that. A lot of people would, but here's the thing: Shaq couldn't shoot free throws. I don't know if you knew that. He could not. His hands were too big or something for the ball. But he would still, professional athlete, he knew that he wasn't getting any better, but he would still fight and try and try and try, spend hours at the free throw line as a professional, getting paid gobs of money, right? And I think those are inspirational things. But I think I'm going to have to go with the Saints. St. John Bosco. I joined this, or attempted to join this Legion Order for a few years. So Don Bosco is a big inspiration for me. St. John Vianney. It's interesting. I'm more of an introvert and I'm more contemplative in nature. So it's funny. Most of my saints are very extroverted, are very apostolic, which is funny. When I talk to other people, they're like very apostolic, and they're like, "Yes, I am. I really value Saint Benedict," and like these super contemplative saints. But yeah, so Venerable Fulton J. Sheen is probably number one on my list. Venerable Sheen is the man. I don't know if you know too much about him, but he is the man.
Yeah, definitely a study. He used to, if you guys don't know, viewers, he ran a TV show back in, I don't know, back when it was black and white still.
Back and forth. He's from the Diocese of Peoria, but he won an Emmy, and all he did was talk about God for 20. He'd stand up and talk about God for 22 minutes, and he won an Emmy in the 1950s. Can you imagine that now? Man was beautifully well spoken. All right. So this is my little plug on Venerable Sheen. This is all you need to know about Venerable Sheen. He had the greatest training. He was like one of the smartest people of the 20th century. He graduated with high honors from the Louvain or whatever it is in Belgium, with the most prestigious of the prestigious of the prestigious of seminaries, and everyone knew he was destined for great things. And he came back to his diocese, and his bishop stuck him in this backwater podunk parish. And if we think of Peoria now, right? I mean, it's all farmland. Peoria, Illinois, by the way. I forget, we're not all from Illinois. So Peoria, Illinois, and it's very farmland. And even then, it had to have been, in the turn of the century, it had to have been really farmland there. And he was in this podunk little thing, and a year later, the bishop said, I'm going to send you to New York to do this, this, and this. And he goes, why didn't you just send me there to begin with? You gave me all this training. What's going on? And the bishop said, because I wanted to know if you were humble enough to accept it. And he was. Obviously, he was. Without a word, he did it. Yes. Yes, Bishop.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys can look up some of his videos on YouTube. And speaking of Shaq, I remember his free throws. Yeah, you guys can look that up on YouTube too. A unique style, and it was always a challenge. This is only going back 20 years ago or so. So
yeah.
But yeah, Shaq's free throws. Okay. All right. Well, next question would be, tell us a little bit about just your day job, and then also the organization that you're part of and what you're trying to do with that.
Okay, so day job is I'm a safety compliance inspector for OSHA. Got into construction. That's what I learned when I was in the military, and kind of went back to the safety. Was set up for it, and I just got this job with OSHA. So even now, it's still a ministry. I think the Lord is leading me to help do this. My boss said just the other day we were talking, and he said, I've been doing this for so many years, and I wake up in the morning and I ask myself one question: did what I do yesterday save someone's life today? And that's really the mission of OSHA. A lot of people don't, what I mean? Like, oh, they're gonna, they're just a pain in the neck and giving me fines. Well, no, the goal is to save lives. And the ministry, the Catholic Misfit, we started the Catholic Misfit 2.5 years ago, and it was articles. We were a publication, Catholic publication. The reason was there was a lot of things going on in the church, and it seemed like no one really had the voice of the Catholic people, the average Catholic people like you and Melissa or myself. And some of us were writing articles and trying to shop them around to these other Catholic publications, and they would get responses like, well, we really only talk about stuff that is currently going on in the church, like current events. And I was like, I just sent you an article a week after the Pew Research came out that said that Catholics don't believe in the true presence of the Eucharist. And what do you mean it's not current events? It wound up being that our editor said they don't know what they have. They don't understand it. This is so different than typical Catholic writings. And that's what led us to start this. And about a year later, we realized that, well, no one reads articles anymore. So we started switching to a more media-friendly content, like we do the Catholic Misfit, where literally it's 60-second to 90-second chunks of theology, and I don't know how many squirrels. I'm sorry, how ADD you have, how much ADD you have, but it's tailored for that, that media consumption and things like this, and podcasts like yours and your programs, just capturing the voice of everyday people.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely drop that link in our show notes so people can check out his videos. This guy, if you can't pick up on it, he has great energy. It's funny, he said he's contemplative and more introverted. You would never know if you met him. And he brings that just, I don't know, authentic and energy, and it's just a powerful, real voice in these Catholic Misfit clips that they do on YouTube. And yeah, that's just awesome.
Catholic Misfit Facebook page. We're on YouTube, where we got a lot of these things cataloged. We're kind of figuring out a way how to do that. And as your hosts will know, we're putting together a podcast.
Yeah, you guys have to check that out. We were actually on his show. It was so cool.
Here's a good interview question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years, 25 years?
Okay, so 5 years, hopefully married by then. Hopefully. I really don't. I did the discerning thing. I mentioned that, but I think God's calling me to be married. So hopefully married and owning my first house. Putting down roots is huge for me, and I really do feel that call. So that was 5. The other one was 10 years, you said? Mm-hmm. 10 years, I hope to be living in Omaha still. That's my number one goal, is to not move.
I love it. Yeah, I can totally relate to wanting to put down roots, because after college, I just was bouncing around, well, even up until 2 years ago when I moved here. I haven't stayed in a place longer than 2 years. And there was a period of several years where I moved every 6 months, and it was just getting exhausted. And I was like, oh my gosh, Lord, I love the adventure. I love being able to go places on a weekend, but I really want a place that I can call home, because making new friends and trying to find a church community and wanting to volunteer, and like I couldn't volunteer because I couldn't make a commitment to anyone, you know? And so I was missing that part of my life too. So yeah, I totally hear you on that.
I think you're 100% right with that. This is the first place I've ever moved where I didn't have any friends, and it's odd that this is the one place. Only God works like that, right? I'm going to move you to some place where you know nobody, and that's where I'm going to make you set down roots finally. Like, what are the odds of that?
Yeah, that's true.
Did we say 25 years?
I did not. I was
25
trying to
years.
avoid 25 years because I have no idea.
It's so far out, it's goofy.
I know, it's no idea. 25 years from now, retired?
Let's take a different spin. What would you recommend for somebody to find fulfillment in life?
I think fulfillment in life comes from several sources. One is emotional, psychological stability, which if you've spent 5 minutes with me, you know that that's where I struggle with the most. Intellectual stimulation, growing knowledge, and prayer life, and understanding and being in this right place with the Lord. And if you're gonna got to have all three of those things. So if you need to have those three things in place for you to be fulfilled, to be even content, let alone happy. And that's the key. You know what I mean? Always trying to grow forward and trying to grow in your faith. That's how you keep God. Growing intellectually, whether it be, you don't always have to read books. You can be watching YouTube videos or documentaries, something to grow that knowledge base for you to gain more insight, no matter what it is. Bernard Lonergan, he had said that in order to, whenever you learn something about a subject, you're learning about God. So Jimmy learns about math, he's learning about God. When Billy is learning about science, he's learning about God. When Eric is watching a documentary on, I don't know, war, he's actually crazy to say, but he's learning something about God. God is in all of that. So that's why it's important to stay intellectually. What it is, Ben Stiller said in Dodgeball, I like to break a mental sweat too, right? And then you have to think emotionally. I mean, you always gotta try to be mature, which I am not. I'm working on it, but I'm not.
That's beautiful. Can we steal that quote for our tagline? We like to break a mental sweat.
It's not mine. I mean, Ben Stiller said it. Have you ever seen Dodgeball?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's awesome. All carrying a book, and I think it was upside down. He's like, "You got me. I like to break a mental sweat too." It's like, dude, you're an idiot. You just picked that book up 5 seconds ago.
That's funny.
That's awesome. I have 2 questions for you, so I'll go with the first one. And it's just kind of off the cuff. You said you kind of led a crazy life before growing up in your 20s, blah, blah, you had a conversion. How have you dealt with, and share, obviously only share what you want, but did you ever have any regret? And if so, how did you deal with, past or even present failings, shortcomings, sins? How do you deal with that? Because I feel like a lot of people carry that around.
Yeah, so that's a very, very, very good question. I'm just now learning how to deal with regret. I will say I'll give you the worst thing I've ever done in my entire life. And I did it all. Short of murder, I did it, I know somebody did it, or I heard firsthand of somebody who did it. Short of murder. That's no joke. I know people that have plotted to kill people growing up. But the worst thing I ever did was, did you ever read The Hobbit? Not watch the movie, but read The Hobbit.
Yes.
Hobbit.
I love The Hobbit, yeah.
There's a line in there that says, "An ill wind blows tonight." And it's where something spooky, mystical, evil, mystical, right? You'd get that, Melissa. Mm-hmm. And so it was a night like that, and I had decided that I wanted to end my own life. I was about 16 years old, and I didn't try. I couldn't bring myself to do it, but I was swinging on a swing set, and I remember one of the few times crying out to the Lord, as you were talking about. Obviously, it was done in a negative way, but I was like, "God, take my life," and He wouldn't. And then I was swinging on the swing set, and I looked down on the ground, and I said, "If He won't do it, you do it." And I was talking to the devil, and literally I was walking back home after it hit me like what I just did, the gravity of what I just did. Not being Catholic, I didn't know how to go to confession, and and walking back, I was literally stopped mid step and like was frozen, terrified with fear. And after I don't know how long, I couldn't even. It could have been seconds, it could have been minutes, but I spun around. And then I looked down, and there was this black cat staring at me. It was almost like the devil saying, "I heard you, I got you." I think that's what happened. I'm a firm believer that that night I had the conversion. What was happening was the devil was trying to, because the devil has no power, but I think he was trying to convince me that my life was hopeless and I needed to just kill myself. That's why I got for. But so that was the worst thing I ever did in my life. And after confession, I don't have any regrets from that. So I mean, because of confession, most of the stuff I have no regrets for. An emotional standpoint, different story. But I hate when I hurt people.
Right.
I beat myself up over it. Once again, go to confession. I'm like, I'll try again. Or I'll try not to do it next time.
Another gift from the Lord is
Yeah.
being able to have our sins wiped away. And though we have wounds, He gives us graces to heal over time. So, yeah, thank you for sharing. But on a more positive note, let's change the tune of this song here. What do you want to be remembered for?
I think about this a lot. And I think simply put, I want people to be able to look back and say, that was a good person. When I die, I don't want to be a great saint. I don't want to go down in the annals of history as being, this great person. I just want my friends to be able to look back and the people know me to say, that was a good person.
Yeah, well said. It's awesome. All right, our last question is, how can our listeners help out the Catholic Misfit organization? What can they do? Where would you recommend they go?
Oh, that's a good question. We don't take that. We don't take donations. We're not there. We don't want to ask for donations. Hopefully, in the future, we can grow members who would feel the desire to kind of members being like a core team that would help out. But we don't want everyday. We don't want everyday people who listen to our content, watch our content. We don't want your donations. We would ask though that you please go on our Facebook page, and if you see a video that you like, just share it. That's all we ask. No money. We do not want your money. We're not. We're just trying to help everyday Catholics grow closer to God.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. It's been awesome to have on the show. Yeah, guys, check out those videos. This guy is hilarious, and he brings the message. So it's just, what a combination. So thanks for joining us, Eric. This has been a pleasure. God bless you, brother.
Thanks. Same to you, pal. Have a good day. Hey, Melissa, great to see you.